The Knife Lab. Hello. So yes, we are bringing back the REX121. I've tried to put the optimum edge on it to give it a chance of catching up with the Sandrin TCK, the tungsten carbide. This is a different material. This is not a steel, it is tungsten carbide, so it doesn't have a lot of the properties that steel has, for better or for worse. Sandrin do make it a flexible tungsten carbide, which does mean that it is a bit more suitable for being a larger knife still, rather than just what is often tungsten carbide's purpose, a little razor blade or scalpel blade. So they have got something very cool here, and it does hold its edge for, as far as my testing can show, the longest time. Especially impressive just given that it was a factory edge. So they sharpen these very well, but when you look at them, it's quite different to a lot of knives that you'll have. This is more of a scalpel style blade even still. It is particularly thin. It's about 1 millimeter and a bit thin. It's got a very, very tall, steep edge bevel on it. It's quite different. This is the best that steel has been able to offer so far. REX121 with a very, very nice, very steep micro-convex edge on it last time. Cut the rope 1,300 times. 1,540 times on this one here. If this is your first time, my rope cutting test, I get a knife, I make it sharp enough so it does this nice and easily, slices the paper, and then I cut twisted sisal rope with it, periodically testing the paper again and again, and then when it stops doing that, like quite consistently, so when it stops consistently slicing the paper, the held sheet of paper, I then sort of say, well, it's no longer reliably slicing paper, and I stop, and the amount of times it cut through the rope is the blade's number. So REX121 is the best I'm going to get. What I've done to hopefully give it a shot of catching Sandrin TCK is sent it off to Nathan at NJMS EDC. Got a Stewart edge on the thing. It's mirror polished, it's very sharp, it's at 14 degrees per side, and it is quite a keen edge, to say the least. I feel like this may be the knife's best chance so far at putting steel back up top, but we will see. There is only one way to find out, however, and that is to do an edge retention test. I've been laid off the videos for a week and laid off the cut test for a week just to make sure I'm healthy enough to do this, because this is quite a taxing test. This is a comfortable knife to use, so I don't expect the same amount of misery that this was to test, but even still, that's where I've been. So without much further talking, let's get into it and let's see how this goes. This Stewart edged REX121 Creeley Mako knife, cutting rope until it no longer slices paper. Let's just jump into it. You know what, it's at 1500, it's got a slight drag on the middle. Let's see, here we go, see if we can get to 1540. We'll stop at 1540 and we'll see what it's doing at the same time the TCK stopped. Jesus, the cut's good. 1540. No fucking way. It's just too cheesy. It's too cheesy for the video to have it. I don't know. New fresh piece of paper, 1540 we're at. Using the bit they've been cutting with. Fuck you. Oh no. I should have just gone to 1550. You know, it's still... No, it's really not. Well, how is that for an unsatisfying finish? I mean, I guess it's nice to know that steel can keep up and match, and you know what, on a different day probably best, on another different day probably slightly lose to the tungsten carbide that they claim is, you know, unbeatable. And really, in a knife, I'd much rather have a more conventional knife blade like this than a scalpel type thing like this as well. So I'm pretty happy still, but I mean, that was just arbitrary. As I was going, I was thinking, I'll go to 50, because it was a 1500 and it was like a slight drag, and I was like, you know, I'll go to 1540. See how it feels then. And you know, my rules are my rules, and you know, I'm not a, you know, I know this isn't exact science, but I stopped the test when it no longer reliably slices paper, and it's got a dull bit, and that formed at about the 1500 to 1540 mark. This is by no means a dull knife. It's just to the point where it doesn't keep going in my test. So, well, so Nathan's put a very, very, very good edge on this knife. 240 more than Jethro's also excellent convex edge. 14 degrees per side. REX121 at 69 hardness, 69 Rockwell. Can keep up with a scalpel blade of tungsten carbide at 71 Rockwell. So pretty cool. And I must say, these are some of the cuts right at the end, and they're still just so clean, and the knife is just popping them apart. So this is, yeah, I was impressive. It's still impressive, but wholly unsatisfying to me anyway. Well, the one part of me that is happy is my hand. My hand was just starting to get a little bit gross, so I got a couple of cuts that just appeared on my knuckles somewhere as well, from obviously just some point of it, clipping something. So yeah, that's the video. Still can be pretty damn insane for, yeah. It's a bit like cheese, isn't it? You mix a few different things in a few different ways, and your same core ingredients can end up completely different. Steel is like cheese. Stay tuned to the Knife Lab for more epic scientific conclusions just like that one. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Goodbye.